Welcome to Bright Ideas. I am Jess Duemig. I am the host of Bright Ideas, and I'm joined today by Dr. Sarita Sharp. Hi, Sarita. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. So for those of you who don't know, we are both members of WISE, which is Women in Sports and Events. And we met actually just through that platform, which is a great tool to have for sure to connect with other people in the sports industry. So I'm glad we were able to connect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. You take us through your background.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. I graduated and went to Benedict College, which is in Columbia, South Carolina. I came back and worked in a hospital for about a year and a half. Realized that I didn't want to go the medical route per se. Was interested in something a little bit more holistic and natural. And after stumbling into a couple chiropractic offices and shadowing them, I got accepted into Sherman College of Chiropractic located in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Graduated in 2017, associated with a chiropractor here in Fishers, Indiana. That's where the sports realm of things kind of took off. I always knew I had an interest in working with athletes, but I wasn't really aware of how vast of a community that could be. And I was really intrigued to see how I can kind of put my footprint in that and contribute. And so ever since then, been working with athletes ever since and different teams. I've worked with Indy 11, which is a professional men and women's soccer team here in Indianapolis. And
Oh,
also I have background in the Strongman community. If anybody is familiar with the strength and conditioning world, then you know the Arnold Classic is a major event. And yeah, I opened my own practice during COVID. So a bit of bravery and faith. You have to step out on faith. And so I think that we all can resonate with that a little bit. So I opened my practice in 2019 and been at it ever since. That's
that's
really,
so cool.
I
Your
guess.
background is so diverse. A lot of the people I talk to are either college athletics or just straight up professional athletics. So, how did you, first of all, let's go back to Spartanburg. How was it being in college down there? I mean, it's a fun little town. It's small. I went to grad school in Hattiesburg, so I mean I know that it's
Mm.
a small town compared to Indianapolis, but how did you like it down there?
Um, to be honest, I did not like it down there.
No way.
I did not. It was a very interesting experience for myself, but in hindsight, I recognize how much I grew after being there. Just a different level of resilience that I feel like I learned that I don't think I would have learned having had been somewhere else. But with school just being stressful in general, you kind of need something to give you that sense of balance as far as like activities or social life, things like that. But Spartanburg was definitely a little dry in those aspects. You really had to travel to like Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, Charlotte, but those are like hour-long drives away. So you really had to drive to get your sense of peace. And that's one thing that I definitely realize now is really important is just having an established work-life balance with all the stresses that you have in life. You have to have those little moments of okay, just walking in a park is, very like peaceful, like it's mentally relaxing, is non-stress. You don't have to necessarily go out of town to achieve that, which in my head, I'm like, I need to escape. But you kind of recognize that the small things do matter. And so that I will say has translated into, like my professional world. You can't always just be like, oh, time for a vacation. You have to just find the joy in the little things. So that I will leave it at that.
That's funny. It's really interesting to me the different experiences people have at colleges and what works for some just definitely doesn't work for others. But I'm happy that you said what you said about the having to develop that resilience because most of what you learn in the classroom in college, like I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit different in medical school, chiropractic school, but like a lot of it doesn't actually apply. Again, very different for a doctor, right? But
Very similar, actually, in a lot of ways,
okay.
unfortunately. And it's fortunate and unfortunate. So in the world of medicine, there are obvious things that you have to know anatomy wise, but when you're in school, you're learning how to take a standardized test.
Hmm.
It's just about boards. But when you work with people and you realize that the ultimate goal is to work with people, which is
Right.
a whole different type of frame mind that you have to operate in, and it's something that you really have to cultivate over time. It's about building interpersonal relationships, actually listening to your patient or friends and family, not projecting your own like challenges or barriers that you have or triggers. You know, everybody likes the word triggers,
Yeah.
that you may be experiencing. If someone tells you something that may affect you, you can't, project it onto them. Um, these are all things that aren't learned in school. And the challenge for me when talking about my academic career is that I was always, I'm not going to say debating, but there was always this challenge that I had with the teaching environment, because I'm like, you're saying that A is the answer, but B and C could also be equally as correct as A. Um, so to say that it's completely wrong is not acceptable in my book. And you can't give me a reason why it is, because if a person, because the thing is like people experience the same condition in a huge variety of ways.
Mm.
And we have to be able to say, is this really what it is? Or is this healthcare provider just giving me a blanketed, condition to operate under? And so a lot
Right.
of patients that I see are very frustrated by the time they do come to me, because they're like, you're the only one who's listened. You're trying to give me answers to what's going on, opposed to just leaving me guessing. There's no answer or any reasons why I'm feeling how I'm feeling. And I really do try to just overly emphasize, like, we go through an analysis process because you're human and there's a lot to consider. So
Okay.
in the world of chiropractic, you have to consider, the mental state or the thoughts of people, the physical traumas or the physical pains that they're having. And then, of course, the environmental hazards or the toxins that they're ingesting or inhaling or, surrounded by. And these are the things that cumulatively contribute to misalignments or aches and pains, inflammation, neurological condition, headaches, migraines. So it's having a patient understand that when they when it registers to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm affected by everything." And I'm like, "Yeah, we
What?
all are."
Right. That's that's it's a great point. I think that there's so much more that can be attributed to what you were just talking about than I think a lot of people know or are willing to accept, whether it is in medicine or in business or whatever. It's like, no, the answer is A. And it's like what you just said, like, yeah, I think that there's a lot with what you just said that can be applied outside of medicine too. I mean, to your point, medicine's a little bit different because we're talking about adding to whatever somebody is doing, whether it's chiropractic or, medication or whatever.
Mm,
That again just compounds whatever the problem was. Hopefully it fixes it, but I think
exactly.
that applies kind of anywhere you go, whether you're in business or whatever. You're diagnosing some problem, right?
Exactly.
And you are attempting to fix it. And if you really believe that there is one way and one way only, that's just going to blanket, knowing how different everybody is and every problem is, it's really just it doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Honestly, just people's sense of it's all about perception. Like, are you seeing the glass half full or half empty? And then when you can kind of understand like a person's view, I know when I hear finance advisors and people talk, there's a chemistry or a psychological aspect behind people when they approach money. usually when they get bills, they have lots of anxiety, they avoid opening, the notices. And if you talk to a lot of financial advisors, they say the same thing. It's like you're kind of looking at money like money's the enemy, when really it's what helps you get whatever you're trying to get to. But
Right.
because we view it negatively, like someone's always taking something from us instead of us paying for a service or a value, we have this like internal thing going on. And it's kind of the same thing I feel like people have with the medical world, and I guess with any profession really. It's always like, well, the doctor just wants to give me a pill or do surgery, and it's like, well, there are other options, but you do have to explore those other options maybe independently, because not all realms of healthcare support each other, which is unfortunate, but it happens. I know several medical doctors who would never refer a patient to a chiropractor, but I personally believe that we all have a place to operate and function in, and I can't do anyone else's job, nor do I want to. So it really is important to join, organizations like WISE and um, the Chamber of Commerce, for your city, just different professional organizations, so you can connect with those people to be able to build a strong professional network and refer out to get your patients the services that they need to better themselves, whether it's from a healthcare point of view or even just a cleaning service, anything you can do to kind of support others, um, and take something off of their plate, I think definitely helps, if nothing more than alleviating mental stress. And that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people talk about communication and even through Bright Ideas, everyone is who I've spoken with is very different, right? Different walks of life, different career paths, different college paths, if at all, right? And the one thing it really boils down to across all interpersonal and really I say interpersonal, but I also kind of am realizing it's intrapersonal and it's
Mm-hmm.
communication, right? The communication obviously between two different people or groups of people is massively important and it's the source of a lot of problem. But even taking it just between like myself, right? The communication between my brain and my arm that hurts or my back that's tight or my foot that whatever, right? And I think
Right.
that the communication of yourself and your and this maybe gets a little frou-frou or whatever, but I really am starting to see it is that your brain is trying to rationalize something that maybe the other side of your brain is like, no, 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 just go do this. And to your point, you have to explore these different options, no matter what you've been conditioned necessarily to believe, right? Oh, you go to the doctor, you get a pill, you get
Right.
surgery. You don't go to this, that, or the other, like holistic medicine, chiropractic, even stretch therapy, or even working out, what the
Yeah.
problems that solves, you know?
Yeah. I tell people, when they come in, I feel like, again, the financial part is like something that they're like, ooh, I'm kind of scared to hear what the bill is. So I'm a cash-based practice, so I don't do insurance directly. I allow my patients to submit if they would like on their own behalf. And so the financial side of things kind of comes up, like, and you can tell people are like bracing for impact. And I often just tell them, like, just think of it as you changing the oil for your car. I mean, you have to invest in it, right? Or else the car is going to blow up, like, and you will be carless. And you know how much of a hindrance in day to day operations and function that would be. That's how chiropractic care is. It's literally just a tune up to make sure that you're still continuously functioning in the right direction. And so, with that being said, a lot of like the home care, I personally don't like to push like a lot of like equipments, and I do offer supplementation, but very specifically for if someone needs something for a certain thing. And I always will suggest it, recommend it, but it's not like you have to do this,
Right.
because there's so many things naturally you can do that can really help get you moving in the right direction that are cheap or free. So water is 100%
What?
cheap compared to other things.
Right.
and does the body so many wonders, like from skin to hydration to muscle function, digestion, sleeping better, kidney, liver, organ function. So water, rest, which people definitely take for granted. People don't sleep. They sleep with their phones on. They sleep with lights. Maybe they have a partner who has sleep apnea or snores loud, so they have a disturbance. And walking. Walking is free. If you can just get up and walk, you know, I say the more water you drink, the more you'll be walking because you'll have to take these breaks to go to the restroom. So it works hand in hand, but it gets you moving up and stretching, gets that circulation flowing. So you're not just sitting in the seated position like so many people developed during COVID, that
Yeah.
sedentary lifestyle. And of course, the more immobile you are, then that's when the aches and pains start to really flare up. So I really just encourage people: water, rest, and walking. Those are the three things that are, I tell my patients, if you want to help yourself in any way and money is a problem, those three things are what you need to be doing to really help your body do what it needs to do to thrive on its own. If you're not
Yeah.
giving it the tools, the practice, the coaching, it's never going to have the direction to move in the right, manner to be able to compete or do the work related duties required. So
Yeah. Well,
simple
there you go.
things.
Even if nothing else, just start those three things and you're halfway there.
Exactly.
That's great. I mean, even if money isn't an issue, you should probably be doing all that stuff.
100%. It's
Yeah.
really non-negotiable because I'm like, you can spend money on hair, nails, cars, clothes. You can get up and walk, you can grab a bottle of water, and you can go to sleep. Sleep is free, walking is free, and good water, if you do like I drink alkaline water, and a 5-gallon thing of alkaline water at Whole Foods anyway is like $2. So it's like
Right.
you can't really beat that.
Let me ask you, does coffee count as water at all?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Well,
but I do tell people, I say, um, you can have your coffee. You just have to have more water. So for every 1 cup or whatever you consider a cup, because that's even a debate with my patients. I'm like, no, a cup is 8 ounces. They're like, no, a cup is 24. And I'm like, no, that's literally 24 ounces. That's not a cup. I don't know where they got their math from, but I don't know. But
it's a literal cup. Noun, not
exactly.
measurement.
8 fluid ounces. But that's it gets they really try to cut the corner. And I say, well, just think for every like 1 cup, just think about drinking at least 2 cups of water or maybe three. It really again just depends on your lifestyle, your activity levels, things of that nature. But you'd be surprised, some people be like, well, I drank 5 bottles, and I'm like, okay, how big are your bottles? Because I have a bottle. This is 40 ounces. So I drink 3 of those for a gallon a day. And then I think like a Dasani is like 16.8, but most like 24 packs I think are like 12 ounces. So I'm like, things like that matter. So you
Right.
have to just kind of pay attention to the details. But I just tell them, as long as you're drinking more now because you're aware than you were then, you've already made an improvement. So just stay on that. And then maybe you'll become conscious of like, hey, I'm a bit more thirsty. Let me grab some water instead of coffee or tea or soda, and just go that route. So
Yeah.
that's the fun of it though, like
Right. I'm
hearing
sure you
them
have
trying
some
to
great stories.
rationalize like, oh, 8 ounces that's a mouthwash cup. And I'm like, no, that's an actual cup.
Oh my God. That's so funny. But you're right. I think you're right. The little improvements, right? Isn't that true of anything? Make a little improvement and you're already better than you were yesterday.
Exactly.
That's funny. Let's go back a little bit. You were talking about the strongman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that everyone who's going to watch this knows everything about that. So why don't you, how did you get involved with that? And then What were some of the cool parts that were so, because that's different. It's very different than a lot of those sports that we're all accustomed to
It's
watching.
definitely different.
Yeah,
So
tell us about that.
to be honest, I didn't know anything about strongman before I started working with the doctor who was involved with it. I knew that the sport existed, but I'm not sure I knew the name. Um, so yeah, so it was kind of like a new world for me. So I knew that I wanted to like work with athletes, and in Ohio every year the Arnold Classic is hosted in Columbus, Ohio. And so it's literally like thousands of athletes that travel nationwide to compete because Columbus, Ohio is the US and original location. So it's a really, really major event. And it
Okay.
has athletes from acrobatics and aerobic instructors competing to, gain their qualifications for different awards and things, all the way to Zumba and everything in between. But strongman is like a very, very large portion that draws like a major crowd. Sometimes people will just come to buy tickets to watch the strongman competition. It's almost as big, if not maybe bigger at this point, as the bodybuilding portion of the competition. So,
Oh, wow.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's like his thing. And to have a sporting event that kind of shadows the major event is like, oh, wow. So, strongman, if I had to describe it as a sport, I would say it's like a farmer's, it's like the farming community couldn't get like the traditional like basketball, football. So they just created their own sport based off of like farmers type activities.
So we're
So
talking tire
pulling
flipping.
tractors, throwing
Oh, no way.
barrels of hay, lifting cars, large stones, just everything that's just like normal people probably won't be doing this.
Oh, that's funny.
But when I got there, I was just kind of blown away because I'm like, well, the average size of a strongman is like pretty massive. I mean, they're upward of 250, 300 pounds. If you know the gentleman, Halfthor, he was on Game of Thrones.
The
He
mountain,
was
right?
like the strongman winner several consecutive years. I've worked on him being his size. So, you meet like the other thing is there's a lot of celebrities who participate. I didn't know there were celebrities because I didn't really know the sport. But then when I started watching the sport to kind of learn the types of injuries, learn what the sporting events entail, just kind of doing some research, I'm like, oh, these people are like really well known. Like they're like really, really like known. I'm just not in the community to know. So it was really interesting also because they're just normal people. Like when they're competing, they're very like in competition mode. But as soon as the event's over, they're backstage laughing, talking to each other and, trying to regroup for the next event, or like, hey man, you got me about like 10 seconds. Like, can't believe you beat me on that one. And it's the sense of camaraderie is really just, it was really cool to see like such big, I guess, intimidating looking people just be so normal. And but as soon as they are going up on stage, it's like the switch flips and you can just tell like, okay, like let me just let them get in their mind, their headspace. And then if they would get injured or feel like they need to be like stretched out or something like that, we were of course backstage to help in any capacity that we could. But their injuries were just, there were always something very like abnormal. It's not just like, oh, like my shoulder hurts. It's like, oh, my lats and it's going into my hip and my serratus, my rib cage is like, I'm like, oh, okay. So the level of complexity really was magnified because they're doing such odd activities, right?
Right.
So I really appreciated that because it was like, yeah, they're normal people, but with abnormal injuries. And so you have to kind of think, instead of a box, you're thinking more of like a sphere. It's not really
Okay.
like a 2D sheet of paper. It's more like I don't know, a Legos cube, very like intricate, but also parts to a whole kind of a thing.
Right. That's super cool. So how did you then make this switch from that, so niche and so abnormally specific, to soccer?
So yeah, the doctor who I work with, he was a strongman competitor himself.
Okay.
So because I worked with him, he kind of grandfathered me in, but I knew that it wasn't something that I was probably going to remain with just because I wasn't as knowledgeable about the field or engaged as he was since he was once a part of that. But one thing that I did do was I was like, well, I'm just getting out of school and I need to figure out like how am I going to do something that I want to do on my own. And I used to play soccer. I always like enjoy watching it, things like that. Um, Never like did it competitively, but I was like, well, let me see what other sports teams are in Indy, which Indy's they have a lot of sports teams. All the major sports are here, including you know, the Indy 500, so racing, but that's a whole nother realm of things. But we have like every sports team here. So I was like, well, I don't think that I would really enjoy the NFL because the teams are so big, the people are very big. And then just being a woman in that environment every day, I just feel like mentally I will probably be a bit drained. I don't really you kind of when you kind of know yourself and your personality, it's like, do you really want to be involved in this every day? Like
Right.
sometimes not all money isn't good money. So I'm just like, let me kind of scale back and start small. So I looked into Indy 11 because I knew soccer, I knew the dynamics of soccer. The team is big enough to where it's a good variety of people, but it's not big enough to where I would feel overwhelmed. So
Right.
one thing about chiropractic, which I guess can be considered a blessing and a curse, is that some people are really, really comfortable with it. And so they'll come all the time. And then others are kind of like skeptical or they don't know anything about it. So they won't. So even though you're a part of the team, the whole team isn't coming to see you. You may have
Right.
like out of a team of like 15 or 20 people, maybe like 7 or 8 will come and then they'll tell other people. And then the other people will come and just watch to see what their experience is like. And then they'll kind of be like, well, let me test it out. So
Yeah.
you kind of just go from there. And it was really nice, kind of like meshing into the Indy 11 community, but definitely working between the men and the women were like night and day.
Really?
Yeah, they definitely had their pluses and minuses on both sides, but it was a good experience on both ends, I would say.
That's super cool. And so now you're in business for yourself.
Yes.
Tell us about that process.
Oh, that's it's a process.
It is.
It is a process. Business by myself is nice because I get to control like everything. Um, but then I'm also being controlled to a degree by my boss, which are my patients. So I like it because I have a sense of freedom. Like I don't want to work Fridays, so I don't work Fridays. Which is something that I've never done because I worked with a boss who worked Monday through Friday, and he taught his patients and clients to really book all the time. But then when he realized he kind of needed a break, they weren't willing to give him a break. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're just going to start off with not working Fridays and we're not turning back on that. And I think that in the beginning, patients were like, well, oh, I can just come in on a Friday. And I'm like, I'm not open on Friday. And you already know I'm not open. So pick a different day. And then they're like, oh, well, can you open on Fridays? And I'm just like, no, because you're
Right.
only saying that because you may not have anything to do on Friday, but that doesn't mean that I don't have things I need to do because we all need time to get things done. And if I'm
Right.
working all day on you, when do I have time to grocery shop? When do I get to go to the bank? When do I get to take a nap? Or, whatever it is. So
Right.
when the 4-day work week came out, everybody started getting on board with the 4-day work week. Now they're like, oh, I don't want to work Fridays anymore. And I'm like, yeah, neither do I. And I don't, because this is why. So in those types of aspects, starting business it's been more beneficial than not, but it's a super huge challenge because it's like you're always trying to figure out a problem. Or if there isn't a problem, you're trying to figure out how to improve upon something that could be more efficient. Like automation has really like kicked up in the world of healthcare and, across the board. But there are like so many things now that people don't have to do that you can just automate. But setting up all the automations takes a lot of like effort, but it's way more beneficial because it cuts down on human error, it cuts down on the cost. The efficiency is almost like 100% every time. So it's
Right.
just like, wow, if we can implement this to make our lives easier, we just got to do the hard work on the front side, which is why you need that extra day of admin, because it's like now you can spend that time getting those things together so that now you can be creative with making content and doing the podcast and whatever else people ask. So you just you become responsible for everything. And I think that that's the part in business that or in school that I didn't really realize. Like, you're the accountant, you're the marketer, you're the therapist for the patient in addition to being the chiropractor.
Right.
um yeah, you're writing doctor's notes, you're writing referrals, you're looking at x-rays. There's just all these things that you do as a chiropractor, and then you have to do all the things that like a business owner does, but usually business owners have like financing options to support all these different types of employees. And then you're like, oh, I am all of these employees. So it's like you're doing 8 jobs versus one, and then maybe outsourcing isn't an option at that time. So you kind of just like, okay. So that's kind of the challenge that I have now. It's like I've got certain people delegated to do certain things, but because I still have to be tangible to them, they are still kind of like, oh, well, I gotta like, can you tell me this, this, and this? And I'm like, okay, well, if you have to call me or email me about all these things, then it might just be easier if I just do it, because,
Right.
like the purpose of me asking you to do it is so you're not interrupting my flow of what I have to do here. So,
Right.
but I also try to be relinquish some of that stress and responsibility where I can afford to.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, even I have an MBA and that stuff's hard for me. So don't think that it's like, oh, I didn't go into, a business background, so to speak. They don't teach you how to delegate. They don't teach you how to set up your delegatees, the people that you're hiring, right? They don't teach you
Yeah.
how to set them up, and the people that you're hiring don't know how, like, there aren't onboarding documents or anything where it's just like, here's everything you need,
Yeah.
apply
And
and be free.
that's the crazy thing is that like I'm really big about patient feedback and like getting involvement from like the community. Like, what services do you want? What services do you need? Is there something that I could provide to make booking easier? Tell me about your experience with looking up the website or booking. And a lot of people were like, I wish we could just book online. Like, I really, if we could do that, I think that would just make it so much easier. So like the transition from the software that I was using to this new software that allows for that, it was just like it took a long time for me to discover it and all of its opportunities because it's an entire process to transition everything.
Yeah.
So when I did move over to this new system that I'm currently using now, again, they can pay online before at the time of booking. So when they come in, we no longer talk about money because it's already done. Um, anytime there's just like um an activity or an event, they can just book that online that they want to participate in. And so it makes it very nice that your patients are willing to be honest with you and help you grow. And so that I really, really value from them. But then they say stuff like, well, you should do more social media, like you should record, our visits and things like that. And I'm like, well, the reason why I don't is because I don't feel like everybody needs to know your personal business. Like, I get that we live in a world where everybody wants to be nosy and involved in everyone else's stuff, but some things you just do need to have it be private. I mean, there's HIPAA violations and things like that are in play. And of course, if they give consent, then it's like you want to use it for your entertainment. But I just feel like I have to keep the integrity of the office environment. This is not a TV or movie set. Like, I'm not
Right.
trying, like, I know people are very much so like, oh, social media is going to help you grow. And I'm just like, but at y'all's expense. Like, and to me, that's not
Yeah.
worth it. And I know that you all don't really realize that, but it's like once you get in the mindset of like, let's get likes and follows and things like that, it's just like money. You want to constantly keep receiving that. And so then it becomes more about the camera and what we're saying and doing than me treating you as a patient and really like diving into like what is the actual problem, which you may not want on camera, but now we're
Right.
here now because this is what you encourage. So I really refrain. Well, if they want to do whatever they want to do, it's fine with me, but I don't come in and say like, let's record today.
Right.
And usually if they do record, I'll put it on like a time lapse so they can't hear what we're talking about. They can just see what's going on. But those are kind of the ways that I get around that. But when you're doing everything, honestly, the thing that you want to do the least amount, well, that's not really priority. It's like it's going to get put at the end of the list every time. So for
Yeah.
me, that's social media. It's just like I don't like it even in the normal world of things. Like my personal accounts, I go on Facebook to shop on Facebook Marketplace. And I go on Instagram to look for food recipes and travel stuff.
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't feel like it's as healthy as people, want it to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy at all. Also, the funniest thing is probably like half the reason they're coming to a chiropractor is because they probably are on their phone and screens too much anyway. You know.
Exactly. But
And
no
it's
one wants
it's
to
hard
talk
to
about that.
believe. Yeah, it's hard to believe that people existed in business prior to 2004 when Facebook came out or 2008, whatever it was. Like businesses happened before everyone was showing the world everything. There's just too much of it now.
Well, and it's that word everything. When it was just like, let's just wish each other happy birthday, or let's organize an event, and here's a few pictures from that event to see how it went. I feel like that was okay, but now it's like, here's my baby, my kids go to this school Monday through Friday from this. I'm like, do y'all not watch Law and Order? I mean, like, what? Why are we telling all the things? Like, we don't need
Yeah.
to know where you go to do certain things. Like, we just don't need to know. It's like people just don't like being private anymore and leaving mystery as like an intriguing factor. So that's weird to me. And then when there is something that is like exposed, it's usually in a negative light. And then that kind of feeds this whole like body dysmorphia thing. And 5-year-olds talking about skin routines. It's like, it's just really weird. And I'm just like, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I just have
Yeah.
a dog. So, and that's enough responsibility for me. The dog in the business is enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's talk real quick. I know we're getting tight on time, but let's talk to the next generation, right? What is probably like your number one tip for someone coming up through school? Maybe they're considering chiropractic school, maybe they're not and should be. What is your advice for them?
My biggest advice for anybody looking into any profession, whether it's health related or not, is to shadow. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Job shadowing, I think, is one of the most underrated experiences that new students, current students, or like, I guess, students who are new graduates do. I think that they think like, oh, I'd rather be spending time with like friends than doing this. And I'm like, shadowing can really give you a deeper sense of perspective on what your career actually entails before you get there. And then it's like, okay, if you know you want to be a chiropractor, don't just visit one. Like, the first chiropractor I visited was a female, and she was, I believe, Indian ethnicity. And so I wanted to get her feedback about her experience as a woman chiropractor, because most chiropractors are Caucasian, male, and over the age of 40. So when they see a Black female under the age of 30, they're like, what is a Black chiropractor? Like, I didn't even know you existed. And I'm like, yeah, we exist. And so just getting the feedback is like hugely important, because then you realize, like, even in that moment, it's like, oh, you're officially a pioneer for the state of Indiana and as to the nation as a whole, because there's only like 300 of us.
Oh my
So it's
God.
like, there's, I think, like 4 in the city of Black female chiropractors, and then Black chiropractors in Indiana, I think there's maybe like 12. So
Wow.
we really, and everybody has a different niche. So there's some that work with just babies or kids, a pediatric chiropractor. You have your sports chiropractors. You have your generalized chiropractor. You have your personal injury chiropractor. So there's all these different like avenues. But despite whatever profession you're going in, I really, really encourage people to just figure out, like, go shadow people who you think you would want to be involved with, whether it's the sports world or um I don't know, like maybe I'm trying to think of a different profession outside of medicine, but like marketing. If you want to do like sports marketing, shadow as many sports marketers as you can, from high school level, the high school marketing team, to professional. Then
Yeah.
maybe venture off and do like corporate marketing, do different types of corporations. Maybe you're working for a health company doing their marketing. But that way you can kind of see, like, maybe what I thought I want to do, maybe I really don't want to do it anymore. Or, oh, I like this. This resonates with me better. Like, I would have
Yeah.
never come across chiropractic if my mom wasn't in a car accident and I wouldn't have worked in a hospital lab. That's when I knew I don't know if I'm cut out for the medical world, because there's too many questions left unanswered. And I just didn't like seeing the patient seeing kind of defeated or confused. Still the questions that they came in with, they're leaving with those same questions and less
Ooh.
hope. And that was really hard to like watch all the time.
Yeah. Again, back to what they don't teach in school, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Man. Well, this has been an enlightening conversation. How should people get in touch with you?
So you can do the normal thing that people like to do and follow me on social media, but I'm kind of going to be quiet on there. But there is valuable information on there still. So Instagram and Facebook is Alpha Health Indy, Indy, on both of those platforms. But probably the easiest way, if you truly want to get in contact with me, is my email. So Dr. Sarita, DrSarita, at alphahealthindy.com. indy.org. And then you can also call the office. I will answer, or my mom will answer because she helps with that. 317-602-4066. And if you're ever in the city of Indianapolis and just want to stop by, you can always come past the office, 4201 Millersville Road, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46205.
Perfect. And we'll make sure all that gets in the write-up with the video. So anyone who's in Indy, by all means, check out Alpha Health Indy. Love it. Dr. Sarita, thank you so much for joining us. I will definitely start walking more and drinking more water and probably trying to sleep a little bit better too. So thank you for that.
Yes, every little bit counts.
It does. It does indeed. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
We will keep plugging along on bright ideas. Stay with us and subscribe, follow, and like.